Hi guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will be continuing our alternate future of the world series. Hi guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll be continuing our alternate future of the world series. And, well, the first event to take place is a merger between Austria and Germany, which many nations are opposed to, but they do it claiming they need defense against Poland. But nobody believes them and thinks they're just talking foolishness. But then it looks bad as a big chunk of Poland is claimed to be historically Russia's rightful land, which basically includes this. All of the Belarusian lands annexed, Ukrainian and Lithuanian. And yeah, let's say it's down to Poland's border of today. The one since 1945, but they don't have that anymore. And well, it's probably 2270 or something. I don't even know what year it is, but it's fair. And something major happens. They also start claiming lands in Poland and saying they can invade the space colonies. And the last straw breaks when Russian forces build up on the border of Poland. The World Treaty Organization, which is pretty much dead, says you can't do this, but they say, well, Poland's not your ally, so you can do whatever we want to them. And well, they get sanctioned, but do they care? No, because sanctions are not even a thing in this universe. So yeah, I think I used the dark blue one. Maybe get a lighter blue, you know, sometimes lighter colors are nicer. And yeah, let's get to it. With Russian forces invading across the wait, no, that's not the Dnieper. With Russian forces invading Poland on multiple different fronts, which the world is shocked by. And Russia launches forces in here, and they launch into Lithuania, with most forces headed into the Ukrainian lands, which is full of food, wheat specifically, with it being sent to the Polish leader in the Poland regions of the moon. And yeah, basically that's what happens. And well, yeah, we're on a layer. And yeah, that's what happens with layered maps. Russia and Poland are at war on two different fronts. And luckily in space, we have the cities shown. And yeah, but Poland heard the news and sent some forces by the capital of Russia, like thinking they can take it, the capital, New Moscow, in space. They encircle it, but quickly the Russians repel this. Really quickly they repel it, as Poland's border is breached in this region. And well, they're also breached in this region, but Poland sets up like basically a big defensive, holding this still, not allowing anybody to advance. They're starting to take more and more land, and they're headed for Minsk, along with into the Ukrainian lands. And Poland asks Romania for some help, which actually does something, because Russia didn't expect this, and Romania is strong somehow without a coast. And Poland was ready to set up a defensive here, and they kicked them out on the Minsk offensive. But Russia is claiming they're winning, with Romania pushing into Moldavia. No, Moldova, not Moldavia. That's a part of Romania. What am I saying? And yeah. And Russia has a full-on offensive now. With them being told they're not allowed to cross into Romanian lands, or, well, bad stuff will happen. But Russia says, well, Romania invaded unfairly. So then they give Lee room. For some reason, they do nothing. So, can you really trust people? No. With Kaliningrad being taken back after a bloody long conflict. Almost gone, but Poland almost to Warsaw, being pushed all the way back to some of their former lands. But somehow the World Defensive Organization got forces to them. Not forces, but aid. And well, they push up into Lithuania. And into the Ukrainian lands, where they avoid the Belarusian lands. With threat of encirclement, they get pushed out. And then in the Minsk area, they start the Minsk offensive. With Romania starting an offensive into the north. Into Transylvania now. It's pushing Russia back. And, well, they don't cross borders yet. They're ready to, and then they finally reach a breaking point where they actually do manage to get across on 2 fronts. Not just 2, but 3 fronts. And while they encircle the capital and move down, they even manage to take New Moscow. Now, well, New Moscow has been taken. The Russians are worried about this, but they managed to hold a stalemate in space. With now New Moscow not being able to manage it, now it's down to Russia to manage the colony. With Romania and Poland now crossing into Moldavia. And they move closer and closer to Odessa, which they encircle and take. And well, they move towards Crimea. And they move down. Into Crimea, they cross into Russia. And well, the Ukrainian front starts doing well for Poland. As Poland is starting to amass forces to continue their offensives. And well, Polish forces enter from Lithuania and Latvia. And well, this is successful. And they move more forces into the Ukrainian occupation as they move them in. Ukraine is one of the most strategic areas for some reason. And they will still be. And well, Everett just watches this Polish defeat of Russia. And well, Ukraine starting to threaten Moscow. And somehow their forces go up to the Finnish border. I don't know why. As they get to Moscow, they encircle it, and the bloodshed starts as they manage to take Moscow. And then if they can take St. Petersburg, Russia will have to surrender, which they take St. Petersburg. And well, they keep fighting till that falls. And then they're like, well, can we go to the peace negotiations table and signing the Treaty of Warsaw, leaving Russia. And yeah, that's what they decide to do. They annex most of Ukraine, but oh. But Poland is imperial. And so is Russia. They're both imperialistic governments. Very imperialistic. Just to let you know. Well, this is what the world order will now be like in the world. But what will happen to the moon, you may be saying? Well, to the moon, there's going to be a treaty. Because the message of the treaty just got to the moon. And it took them, let's say, 15 days. Wait, how did this war happen in 15 days? I mean, it could happen in 15 days. But Poland even going as far to turn on other All that, now they changed it to New Krakow, a city in Poland. Yep, and Russia's upset of this defeat. Embarrassing defeat. But somehow, Russia creeps up in a new location. Yep, and you want to see it? Russia came from the south and is now here. This might not be lined up. And see? I hope this is straight. And let's hope. Let's look. Is it straight? Well, that's good enough, in my opinion. What do you guys think? You can comment. That's most what will happen in space. And now let's go back to Earth. And well, one major change is about to happen with the Saudi Arabians going behind Turkey's back and declaring war. You may be like, what? No. With the EAF throwing their support instantly to Turkey. Chad does the same. India does the same. And well, South Africa does. But something weird is about to happen. Egypt throws its support behind someone else. And well, Afghanistan throws their support behind them. And Iran joins. Well, Azerbaijan then joins this war. And then we have Namibia join this war. Nigeria joins this war. Into Turkey. Turkey wasn't expecting this, so they're in a bad spot. Azerbaijan decided to help them, but what really doesn't make a difference. Yeah, a bit. Azerbaijan's pretty strong now. But there's problems for Turkey. They're not ready. Azerbaijan is quicker to mobilize, probably because they have less people. Likely. Yeah, it doesn't look good for Turkey. Well, it looks horrendous for Azerbaijan, who loses their capital. And Turkey is scared. And yeah. So this front continues. And Iran starts its offensive into Turkey. Into their oil-rich former region. Which doesn't matter, because oil is useless now. So they've got something else in diversified economies, I hope. Or else, yeah. And well, the northern regions fall and they push down the coast of Turkey. And well, Iran and Saudi Arabia are helping each other for the same, because they have the same enemy. The plan is for the Iran and Azerbaijan push into India. Not Azerbaijan, Afghanistan. Pushes into Kashmir. And then claims it as their own. Okay, is that how Kashmir fights work? But India basically reminds them, saying, I can take back the lands Pakistan once had from you. The Pashtun lands of Pakistan, with this being the front. And now let's go to Africa. How well has Egypt been able to equip itself? Well, in the years leading up, they've been gone on a rampant campaign of building up their mighty military. Now the EAF still preparing to push them back. And yeah. But the EAF is not in the greatest spot because of some of these. Yeah. And also, that island that belongs to the Arabian Union, with some major difference happening on a different front. With Nigeria swooping in and taking out this. Shows their military really strong, as the EAF also does that. And well, into Chad they go. The EAF is really big. With Egypt headed trying to re-liberate lands. Well, it looks good for them, personally, I think. But that means nothing. You also have to remember, they're probably busy on a different front. With these forces, with this gang trying to push the EAF back. Especially Angola, who wants to push them back. With Zambia and Mozambique pushing them back. And well, yeah. With South Africa getting pushed back, but unfortunately for the red team here, it's not going to do anything, as South Africa pushes into Namibia and Botswana. This quickly forces Botswana and Eswatini to withdraw from this land. And then, well, the EAF comes crushing them in the north here. India having success on Afghanistan, and Egypt getting further. But we have one thing to say. There's one more spot that's going to fall before, well, they start turning the war. And all of these nations need to go. They're just a distraction. And, well, they find this out when it's way too late, because, well, at this point, they're not going to get any negotiations. Because, look, is it possible to get negotiations when that happens? No. Well, yes, but no. And, well, they move their focus to the north, which the amount of forces sent by Nigeria, South Africa, and the East African Federation, which I would say would have 500 mil by now. And yeah. They're getting better at conflict, it appears. And one big pushback happens. Egypt is no longer able to help anyone else, which they're moving forces back, especially from Afghanistan front and Iran's, which leads to pushbacks. And unfortunately for them, this was a stupid idea. As well, this happens. With Afghanistan falling into civil war against the Taliban now. And well, these forces don't go so well anymore, as this new force group is taking lands back and wants to negotiate with India, with Ethiopia, with them basically now being forced onto their own team. And Iran wants into these lands, so they move in. With the peace treaty over Afghanistan basically having to happen. As Iran is about to surrender, it appears. As they are trying to make peace and get little lands. With Turkey agreeing to a surrender if they don't take any land, which Iran pretty much doesn't want. With a peace treaty being signed with Iran, called the Treaty of Borders. Except one thing, India march troops into these lands and annex them. This leads to some pro-Taliban revolts. And well, it's just great. Now Afghanistan is in a civil war. It's in a state of civil war with pro-Talibans rising up. But then something odd happens. Pro-Asian Pac forces rise up, along with pro-Russian forces. which will be here. And look, see, pro-Russian forces. And then pro-Western forces come to prominence. Well, the pro-Western forces are already in charge, basically, but even more pro, like WDO pro. Very pro-America ones rise up. And, well, Taliban's do some movement. And yeah, the Afghan Civil War, let's leave that for a bit. And well, all that's left is Egypt and Saudi Arabia. With Egypt, like, really? Did you have to zoom out that far, Wild Mapper? And me, yeah, I did have to zoom out that far. You guys are probably like, what? Fine, that was a glitch. Wait, what? A glitch? Oh, that was my fingers. Yep. And so, the last final pushback happened. And other allied nations, such as, well, Saudi Arabia, the Arabian Union, I should call it, with them moving into here. And then they swoop into the Eritrean lands of, well, Saudi Arabia for some reason. And yeah, a turbulence that's now instilled. And suddenly, the Renaissance Dam completely shuts down the Nile in parts of Egypt somehow. And well, fine, that never happened, but that could happen. With Egypt collapsing. With the Arabian Union, like, yeah, we can't die. With getting invaded in Yemen and Oman. And well, they finally relent and agree to peace. In countries like the EAF, note South Africa, and Azerbaijan have no treaty left to sign, but countries like the Arabian Union and Egypt have a treaty left. But the Egyptian one is much more harsh than theirs. Yemen. And Nigeria decides to join the, I don't know what I called the pact, but I'm going to rename it to the Delhi Pact. Just because I'll remember it that way. And well, Saudi Arabia is on its own, Egypt, and Oman. Yemen, I was going to make independent, but then, well, they decided to annex some lands. And let's see what happens in Afghanistan. Who wins? Well, the pro-Chinese forces are still democratic, but say more still state-controlled. Well, the pro-Russian forces are basically imperialistic and have big ambitions. They also are sympathetic to Iran's loss of territories over the last few hundred years. And well, then the Taliban's are just expanding. With the pro-Russian forces disliking them and attacking. With the government pushing back the pro-Chinese forces out. Because nobody likes that kind of guy. And then the middle ones is just democracy, and then this is republicanism, basically. But still democracy, if that makes sense. More like a federal democracy than, say, the one here, which is more of a corrupt democracy somehow. Don't explain. Well, the Taliban's regaining control over a lot of the land. But the good news is the pro-American ones are pushing them back. They're a really strong democracy somehow. Like, they're kind of like a more American democracy with, well, the death of Afghanistan quickly approaching. And, well, the future will be written by who wins this war. They're now saying. And well, with the history, the future being written, the pro-American forces take a lot of land, and then Russia tries to say that they should just divide it based on these lines, but America says, yeah, let's do that, as this happened. Yeah, those lines, I guess. How about these lines? And they finally say, fine, America, have it your way. With this new country joining the World Defensive Organization, which let's rename it to the World Pact, the World Defensive Organization, the World Union. I don't know. Let's call it the Democratic Defender Pact, DDP. Democratic Organization of Defense. Democratic Organization. Democratic Defensive Organization. World Defensive Organization. I prefer that name. I can't think of a better name. With Israel deciding to join them. And, well, Germany. And that's pretty much all today left. And please like and subscribe, as we went through a few events. Let's recap. So, the Americans took over that. And let's recap in space. The Russians lost land to Poland. Let's recap during that war. And then Poland gained a big chunk of Ukraine. Romania has access to the coast due to that war. Let's recap to this part. And then a big war broke out in this region. Nigeria joined the WTO at the end. And in that war, it looked good for Egypt, but then the tides completely turned. And Afghanistan fell into a civil war because of that. And then everybody, pro-Chinese, pro-Americans, pro-Russians, pro-India ones, basically, pro-everybody forces, Talibans even. And so that's pretty much all for today's video. As the provisional government collapsed, basically. The provisional Afghan government basically was a democratic group, but they came to power after, well, fighting the Taliban off. So the Taliban came back trying to take it back. They failed. And so we have a democratic Afghanistan, which is pro-Western world. So all things end well. So please like and subscribe. We are at 157 subscribers. That's 43 away from 200. Our goal is set by March 1st. So please like and subscribe. That's all for today's video. Pretty much, please like, subscribe, leave a comment of anything, emojis, faces, anything, ideas, comments. You can also comment suggestions and stuff. So please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. That's all for today's video. Wild Mapper out.